Hi everyone, I'm Mishka and welcome back to my channel. In today's episode of Our Life Beginnings and Always, we are going to be continuing moment 1 of step 3. Before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and share this video with your friends so that they can find amazing digital you ever know. So yeah, let's get into it. I hope you enjoy. So we left off here of us returning to our street, and yeah. If you haven't seen the last episode, make sure to go check it out before listening to me narrate all of this. So, yeah. She looked from face to face in expectation. Cove and Miranda shrugged in concert. No one was overly opposed to it. However, you really weren't starving. It was quite a mealtime. We could get dessert. Miranda put a finger to her lip and thought. With a smile, her voice became more confident. Yeah, that would be fun. Terry considered it and shot Miranda a thumbs up. Sounds great to me. I can definitely go for that. I think that's a good idea. But there's nothing sweet in my house. Your friends glanced at Cove in his place. He shook his head immediately. Doesn't have anything good either. I mean, unless you want dessert flavored protein shakes. Ew, no. She cut it and held her hands up as if trying to ward off something evil. Cove smirked. It's not that bad. Nope. Well, there has to be some kind of sweet shop around here. Let's look it up. Terry nodded and started to dig around her bag. I like the way you think. Terry continued to rummage in her bag and grew increasingly frustrated. She puffed out her cheeks and knelt down, setting the bag on the ground. With both hands free, she was finally able to fish out her phone. She raised it in triumph for a brief moment of celebration. I'll search for something good. Terry got back to her feet, hefting the bag over one arm, tapping away her screen in the other. But she assessed Cove from top to bottom. No shirt, no shoes, no service. Cove glanced down his bare chest and feet, having not even registered it prior. He chuckled a little. I'll grab something. Cove moved over to his place. His house. You looked towards ours. God bless it. Okay, no, we're not changing. You watched Cove disappear into his house. Terry was deep in the midst of scrolling through food options. He shuffled over to where you could see, and Miranda did the same. There's ice cream. People love ice cream, especially around here. I don't really feel like ice cream. Cool, because I don't either. She flicked her finger up, and another ice cream place showed up. Melting Moo-Moo's frozen treats with an unfortunate cartoon mascot. Or carton. I like ice cream. It's just not for today. There has to be something else. You thought on it and Terry kept scrolling. You heard a door open and Cove reappeared. You were just about to be supervised. Oh my god. Did I just say supervised? Surprised at how quick he was, but then noticed he'd just thrown on a t-shirt over a swim trunks and slipped a pair of sandals on. Of course. Hey. Everyone else exchanged their respective greetings and looked back at Terry's phone. Terry scrolled further and then made an interested exclamation. Oh, what about this place? They sell crepes. I don't know how to say that. That's something you don't see every day. Look how fancy they are. She shoved her phone into your face. It seemed like a cute shop. It didn't show any pictures of the actual building, but the food seemed good. It was one of those places that put a lot of effort into presentation, with branded wrapping for the crepes and well-applied toppings. Weird, I've never heard of it. I haven't either. Mysterious, but crepes are good. They're so good. She nodded her approval as Terry admired more of the photos. I'd go. It's not too far, but we could drive. Terry cheers at the success of a plan made. You all walked around to Cove's car. He had to run inside once more to grab his keys. Do that. You notice the thing Santa does on Cove's car. It had probably been a while since he washed it. With a smirk, you carefully wrote "wash me" with your finger. Good work. I wonder if he's even gonna notice. The car beeped and unlocked. Cove ran up to you with his car keys in hand. His hair slipped into his face and he brushed it back. Shotgun. She clambered into the passenger seat without hesitation. You didn't argue and climbed into the back with Miranda. Terry activated the directions on her map on her phone map and acted as their navigator, directing Cope to the crepes. The GPS tried to get Cope to turn into a non-existent road once and wanted him to do a U-turn instead of just using a left turn. But with Terry looking at the actual path, it went smooth enough. You were led to a small stall in the parking lot rather than a full building. That explained why there hadn't been pictures of the creperies interior and why it was new to you despite living in this town your entire life. It was a completely new structure that had popped up recently. There was a window you could walk up to and one for cars to drive up to. Cope parked with a laugh. I don't think I needed to put a shirt on for this, but I still want to try it. Let's go. Do you not trust us to eat in your car? She gestured to the drive-thru option. Cope shook his head with a snort. I trust the people here, maybe, but wouldn't it be more fun to actually check it out? Everyone acknowledged his point and piled out. Terry tried to tease Cove a little bit, but Miranda started talking about the last time she had crepes. Apparently, they'd been a dessert explosion, topped with multiple sauces, powdered sugar, and what Miranda was pretty sure had to be cake icing. That's sweet. Wait, did I? Yeah, I did. Okay. That's sweet. Literally, it was so good, but I regretted it so much. I couldn't finish it, and I really tried. You can do it this time, Randy. Oh my god, this is so cute. What the heck? There was a last. When you got up to the menu, you realized there were more than just crepes. There were definitely crepes, many crepes. However, the stall also had a lot of different drinks as well. Teas, smoothies, milkshakes. Jackpot! She grinned and held out her fist for her fist bump. Miranda high-fived it. The two stared at the awkward, vaguely turkey-shaped hand configuration that he had made and then slowly put their hands down. Cove's mouth twitched into a smile. You stepped up to order first. You glanced back at the menu. Oh no, order both. Hello, I'd like to get a crepe and a drink, please. There was a woman who looked a little older than you taking the order. She smiled back at you, ready to hear the specifics of your purchase. For the crepe itself, you wanted, lemon. For the fillings and toppings you picked. Okay. No, sure. Cream cheese, what is that? Powdered sugar. Do. Banana. Okay, that's all. After you picked the size, you were asked what you wanted to drink. You ordered. Do a frappe. You could also add in mix and our toppings for the drink. No, you didn't want anything extra. You paid and stepped aside to let your friends order. Cove got a lemon crepe with powdered sugar on top and the mixed berries. He also got a plain strawberry smoothie. Terry went crazy with the toppings. Although she ordered a plain crepe, she had it smothered with whipped cream, cream cheese, chocolate chips, chocolate syrup, and bananas. God bless it. Miranda opted for a frappe with caramel syrup and condensed milk. The four of you stood off to the side as you waited for your treats. I heard what you ordered, Mina. I'm glad I'm not the only one to go for a drink and a crepe. I couldn't pick just one, and why not? Exactly, it's gonna be good. Mina, man, your crepe is gonna rock. High five for topping appreciation. She held out her hand expectantly. Yeah, give her a high five. You hit her hand with a satisfying smack. Order for Mina. Oh, I've gotta get that. You grabbed your order. The others didn't take much time after that. With the goods collected, everyone admired their treats. Terry dug right into hers, and Miranda gave hers a tentative sip. Terry nodded acceptingly with her mouth completely full. Miranda tilted the frappe over to her with a grin. Terry sipped it and clearly loved it. She raised her crepe over to Miranda. You could tell there was an intent to make it look nice, but with all the assorted toppings piled on, only so much could be done. Miranda took a huge bite with gusto and sighed happily. Terry seemed satisfied and took another slurp of Miranda's drink. They had both only gotten one thing probably because they knew they'd end up sharing. Hi, Cove. Cove went over to you, and there was a definite interest in his eyes at your order. Well, I was just gonna say you can try mine. It's pretty good and summery. Sure. He handed you his crepe first, and you tore off a piece and put it in your mouth. It was tart from the lemon, but the syrupy berry mix brought in the sweetness. The balance between the thin, almost spongy crepe and the juicy toppings made for a unique set of textures. You passed him yours and he tilted his smoothie over. You took a sip and had to suck a large strawberry chunk before the actual smoothie head came up the straw. It was mostly smooth with a delicate tiny crystals of ice and the occasional bits of fresh strawberry. It matched with the crepe with even more berryness. Cove enjoyed his sampling too. He had a dry smile on his face and looked almost disappointed when you swapped back your treats. Oh my god, Cove. With that, Cove started to eat his treats in earnest. You saw him take a huge gulp of his smoothie, and then without swallowing, he added a bite of his lemon crepe. His habit of mixing foods together wasn't anything new. He hummed in satisfaction, so you guessed he might still like the combined flavor. Cove? Terry tore off a piece of her crepe and held it up to Cove. Care to make a trade? Sure. Instead of continuing to loiter in the parking lot, the four of you started to walk down the sidewalk. There was a lot of sharing going on with crepe bits and toppings being passed around. You wouldn't have been surprised if Terry ended up drinking more frappe than Miranda did. You kept going down the way, eating, drinking, and chatting. You hadn't realized just how far the group had wandered until you ended up at the now leaving sign. Apparently, you were just about to walk right out in the middle of nowhere. Terry took her mouth off of Miranda's straw and stopped sipping the frappe. Impossible! Preposterous! I don't know how to say that word. How are we already at the end? I always forget how tiny this town really is. Cove chuckled a little and swallowed a chunk of Terry's crepe. I forgot how to say her name for a second. It kinda is, huh? It didn't feel like that small when we were growing up. You just quietly nodded along. Not disagreeing with Cove, you gave acknowledgement of his words. Sunset Berg really did feel smaller these days. I guess this means we should probably head back. One doesn't just walk into nowhere land. We're not only one, Terry. There's four of us. Terry scrunched up her face, not wanting to acknowledge the bad joke. She decided to ignore it. It stinks having to go all the way back. Yeah, but it's not like there's anything out in that direction. And if we did keep going for it, it'd be an even longer trip home. You stared off into the stretch of road as Cove agreed that he didn't want to go out any further. Can we take a break here first before we turn around? We've been walking for a while and someone finished my drink. Right on cue, Terry loudly sucked air from the straw. It was so good. Miranda looked at her, but Terry remained unrepentant. In the end, though, it was agreed to hang around the sign before heading back to the car. It didn't take long to finish the rest of the food and drinks. Everyone now gathered up the trash and stuffed it into bags and pockets for now. The group relaxed on the grass, keeping account of all the cars that drove past. It was not a high number. 14. The newest passing car drove into town from somewhere outside. But as the vehicle came by, it slowed down, and you watched as it ultimately rolled to a complete stop. The black car parked right by the now leaving sign. Everyone exchanged a baffled look. But then the tinted window rolled down, the driver peered out. As soon as you saw his hair, you recognized him. No one else he knew presented themselves so distinctively. Oh, it's Baxter. No, it is. Oh my god. Hey, neighbors. Cove also jolted with recognition. He passed on a cordial smile and waved politely. Afterwards, he put his mouth back over the straw of his long, empty drink, as if trying to act cool. Oh my god, Cove. Hi. You inhaled and tried to be loud enough to account for the distance and car noises. It's nice to see you again. Somehow he was able to project his voice in such a way that it still sounded smooth, even though he was definitely speaking loudly. You wondered where he learned to do that. And you thought about the odd picture this made. A fancy black car pulled over to talk to a group of teens, mostly still in beachwear. Miranda was incredibly confused and shrank back to watch. Terry tilted her head in an unspoken question. Cub made a quick gesture, pointing towards Baxter, and a light bulb went off for Terry. Ah, that's the new person in the condo. The bee man, right? Yeah, Baxter. Oh, I wasn't sure if I'd ever actually see him. Her voice was quiet. Miranda usually got shy around new people. Terry was quite the opposite. Incredible. This is perfect. Terry hopped up from the grass and ran to Baxter's car, all full of excitement. Behind her, Miranda picked herself up and dusted imaginary dirt off her clothes. She sent a searching look to you and Cove, to which Cove shrugged, Miranda nodded, and with clenched fists hesitantly followed Terry. Terry bent down and talked to Baxter through his window. She blasted through introductions, with Miranda putting in a shy wave. Cove looked at you. He still clearly had no intention of going over. No, go over to Baxter. Bye, Cove. No one you do. I'm joking. But honestly, the way he's acting, it's stupid. Cove waited in the grass without another word. You joined the other two and stood next to Baxter's car. He smiled gently at you.
Nice to see you.
Mana, it is very nice to see you once more. He gestured to Miranda and Terry. I just rented this car for my stay here, and was coming back from a bit of sightseeing when I spotted your crowd. Then these two were kindly introducing themselves. Yep, it's only polite. Speaking of polite, since you know us, you should give us a ride. Terry. Her voice was whispered, but her tone was clear. This was not Miranda approved. What? Then we won't have to walk back to the parking lot. I'll take care of it. Miranda bit her lip. Terry, clearly not seeing the problem, pointed at Miranda and then turned back to Baxter. You wouldn't make a cute girl trudge down this empty road, right? Look at her. Baxter did. Miranda smiled. Oh my god, look at him. Oh my god, I love Baxter. Did I say Baxter? What? Baxter. Oh my god, I love him. The heck. Miranda smiled uncomfortably and he grinned playfully. Of course not. Consider me at your service. Yes. She spun around and tried to wave Cove over. You could tell from his face that he was already alarmed. Get over here. Baxter is giving us a ride. You could make out his frown in the distance. However, he did start to drag himself out of the grass. Good, Cove. You were just happy to get a ride. Regardless of anything else, you didn't have to walk back. That's what counted, and you were grateful to Terry for arranging it. Miranda looked down and put on a polite smile. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You are welcome. Terry did have a point. It would have been inconsiderate to abandon you here, and after all, your company is a favor to me. Miranda laughed a little, and Terry slung an arm over Miranda's shoulder with a big grin. Seeing their reactions, he made a point to search for yours, too. That was funny. Cope stepped up to the car, his expression now inscrutable. I don't know how to say that. Hello. Hi. Alrighty, plan made. Let's hop in. You excitedly opened the passenger side door and buckled yourself in. The car was pristine and you were right near the new car-scented air freshener. Baxter had the air conditioner on cold but low, so it was pleasantly cool inside. A nice relief from the summer sun you had been baking in all day. Your friends clambered on and back. It definitely seemed the slightest bit squashed back there. Welcome to my vehicle. I hope everyone is comfortable, and if someone could point me in the right direction, we could be on our way. Terry went back to navigator mode and outlined their journey. It was basically a straight line with one turn at the end into the parking lot. Baxter nodded from up in the driver's seat and pulled back onto the road. Luckily, the street was still dead empty. It took no time at all for Baxter to park right next to Cope's car. There wasn't even enough time to have for a proper conversation to start. Oh, y'all didn't go far at all. The occupants didn't seem to mind. They were all smiles around when Baxter parked next to Cope's car. Woo! Miranda clapped quietly as Terry cheered. Cope chuckled nervously. You nudged Baxter in a friendly way. He leaned over the divider and gave Baxter a lighthearted push on the shoulder. He hadn't been expecting it, but quickly laughed and smiled at you. The celebration seemed to amuse him. We've arrived. That was easy. Terry flung open her door and climbed out. Thanks. Everyone else exited the car as well. The group thanked Baxter with varying degrees of enthusiasm. Baxter himself got out too. Everyone congratulated again in front of Baxter's and Cope's cars. Carl looked at the Oh my god. Cope looked at the back of his in front. He finally discovered the wash me you put on it. I wonder who did that. You snickered along with Miranda, who realized you'd been caught. It's a mystery. Right. Terry bounced over to Baxter and offered her hand for a handshake. He accepted it easily with a charming grin. You're a pal. You're too kind. It was no trouble whatsoever. I'll be keeping this car all summer. If it suits you, you're welcome to take my number and give me a ring whenever you're in need of another ride. And that goes for everyone here. I have a car. Terry bursted into laughter and Miranda fidgeted. She did not know what to do with that. Baxter really went fast, and he noticed her discomfort and smiled with a soft tilt of the head. I'd be happy to help again, but that's the only reason I offered. If you don't need it, you can pass on it. Ooh, can I have your number? He beamed widely a year response. Oh, absolutely. Baxter pulled out a pen he had with him for some reason and jotted his number down. He'd pass a little paper to you and you accepted. When her giggles subsided, Terry put a hand to her chin with brows furrowed. I wonder would that option be available right now? You could valet us somewhere cool. What? Cobb was taken aback. He put a hand on the hood of his car. Weren't we going back to the neighborhood? Wasn't Baxter going to the neighborhood too? Why would we go somewhere else? Because we can. Miranda squirmed nervously and then committed to piping up. We could go to the park near my place. It's a really nice place to hang out. You and Cobb shared a look. The big part was pretty nice. Let's do it. Did we go there for her birthday? Baxter tapped the side of his head or face and thought, that sounds doable. He glanced at Cobb and then switched focus to you. Well, we have 2 cars. If some people want to go to the park, I could still take the others home. But if everyone's going, it wouldn't make sense for me not to. No, I want to go to the park. You weren't ready to tag out yet. You came to a decision and turned to Cove. Let's go to the park. Alright, park time it is. He smiled a little. Terry cheered and Miranda nodded happily. You felt like you made a good decision. To the car! Again! Which car? There are multiple. He watched to see if Cove or Baxter had an answer. Cove sighed and ran a hand through his hair. He tapped on the car's hood nervously. We can go in Baxter's car, I guess. It'll be less of a pain than bringing both. We're all going to the same place. Are you okay with that, Baxter? Certainly, I meant what I said. When you need a lift, I can give it. Neither you nor Terry brought up any objections, and so the gang climbed back into Baxter's nice ride. This time, Baxter offered to turn on some music. After all, it would be a little bit of a drive to the park. Like we normally would, don't mind us. Yeah, I would love to see what kind of stuff a guy like you was into. I hope the playlist lives up to expectations. He plugged his phone into the car with an aux cord and turned on some alternative music. With the music taken care of, Baxter put the car in drive and pulled out of the parking lot. The lot was practically empty, but you noticed that he was careful anyways. During the trip, it changed to hard rock, punk, and even screamo. Despite his personal demeanor, he didn't seem to like upbeat tracks. It took a while to arrive. By the time he got there, the sky was golden with orange streaks of sunset. Everyone got out of the car and started to stroll along one of the paths. You walked by the basketball court and some picnic tables, taking in the sights. Miranda seemed amazingly content, the location helping her relax in the company. She led the way, sometimes stopping here or there to point out something. Baxter turned to her and nodded along. I've never been here, but I definitely see the appeal. Man, this is Randy's stomping ground. She's been coming here forever. Seriously, Miranda, have you ever had a birthday party that wasn't here? You've missed out, Baxter, because every year she has a blow-up party at the park. Imagine balloons everywhere. Miranda looked down, suddenly shy again with the attention on her. She let out an awkward laugh. Yep, every year. Actually, my birthday is where I first started to really get to know Cove and Mina. She smiled and then pointed to a wide, flat spot on the grass. Remember the bounce house? I remember. He chuckled and you could practically see those old memories on his face. It was a party for the ages. You were great. It was a blast. The group followed Miranda along to one of the picnic tables. She took a seat and Terry slid in beside her. They spent the evening chatting amongst each other. Everyone got to know Baxter a little better, although you could tell Cove and him still hadn't fully clicked. At one point, Miranda found an abandoned soccer ball and started tossing it around. To me. Miranda threw the ball to her. Terry caught it with a smile. Think fast. She chalked it at Baxter, who only had enough time to squeak. It bounced off his chest and he stared at it dazed. He blinked as if he needed time to process what exactly had happened, but then grinned dangerously. He rushed after the ball, and rather than throwing it back, he surprised Terry and everyone else by looping the ball high into the air. You bent your neck to watch it ascend and inevitably decline. Baxter hooked it with his foot and then launched it up again. There were oohs and nods from Terry and Miranda. Baxter gave them a very proper bow. When it finally fell to the ground for real, Cove was the one who picked it up. He was impressed and he wanted in. With that, everyone was drawn into the game. It was unspoken that whoever did the fanciest trick won. Most of the game was not particularly practiced with throwing a ball, so not many tricks were actually good. However, there was lots of laughter, and you got to see Miranda pull off a round off when she threw the ball with her feet, so that was cool. You did pretty well yourself and got a fair amount of applause from the crowd with your moves. Oh, that's good. The sunset eventually darkened into night, and the street lamps turned on. Your group's chosen picnic table laid in a bubble of light. The occasional bug cast a shadow as they flew by. It's a little strange being here so late on a normal night. Usually that only happens if there was a party or an important game or a fireworks show. Fireworks! Her yell stirred 𝐬𝐬𝐿, who was throwing the ball nonchalantly from hand to hand. He missed catching it and it sailed sadly back to the ground. He looked at Terry for a loud outburst. I just remembered, there's going to be a fireworks show tonight. It's in the city. At everyone's questioning look, she huffed and tried to explain further. It's some celebration for the opening of something. I don't remember what. I don't think we could get into the actual event anyways. But we should still be able to see the show if we get close. You can't keep explosions in the sky away from the public. Cove raised an eyebrow and drummed his fingers on the table below him. You want to change locations again? Wasn't the last 2 times enough? Terry rolled her eyes and then shook her head. To her, it was obvious. Don't be a wet blanket, Cove. What about you, Mina, Randy, Baxter? Don't you want to see the fireworks? Yeah, we gotta go. I guess they are fireworks. Alright, whatever. What's one more scene change? Yush, I knew this was a good idea. In turn, 4 sets of eyes looked to Baxter. As the driver, his answer made or broke the plan. He chuckled softly. And for a penny and for a pound, I'll go. Genuinely, there's nothing better to occupy my time tonight. We better hurry, we might miss it. Covered his eyes but laughed. Everyone headed back to the car yet again. Terry brought out her phone to navigate to the city, and Baxter stepped on the grass. You were on your way. Baxter drove past buildings aglow in warm yellow light that cut through the navy-black night. One office building had bright LED lights that cycled through a whole rainbow of hues. It was difficult to get through all the traffic on the road, let alone find parking this late at night. Luckily, Miranda had eagle eyes when it came to scoping out a spot. She pointed to a sedan pulling out, and Baxter parked within seconds. Now, wanting to make the show, you all raced down the waterfront walkway to find a place with a good view. Hey, this is where we saw Shiloh in the beginning of step 3. What do I hear? Cup peered across the rails into the distance and jaw her a thumbs up. It was relatively quiet, isolated, and you could see skyscrapers. That was a good sign, based on where Terry thought the event was. Yes, the show worked just fine. She stopped and tried to catch her breath, her hands on her knees. Miranda leaned against the wall between establishments as she had recovered. Cove took a moment to breathe as well. Stretching his spine back, he looked up at the sky and wondered and let out a relieved sigh. Oh my god. Think we've missed anything? Not a chance. Nothing's happening and we can't be so late that we missed everything. Maybe it'll start soon. He felt excited, sure. The spontaneity of the whole thing combined with the amazement of fireworks was a recipe for you to be bursting with anticipation. It couldn't start soon enough. Terry led Miranda to set down the oval step slabs along the path. Miranda took a seat and began tapping her knees together as she waited. Terry, meanwhile, crouched more than sat. Baxter smiled politely and looked from you to Cove. He seemed to be waiting for one of you to speak first rather than wanting to directly start a conversation. Something seemed to strike Cove as he tried unsuccessfully to hide a smile. We're all still in swimsuits. Wearing beachwear in the middle of a city in the dark while waiting for a fireworks show was clearly the joke of the day for him. Cove snorted once and then looked back up at the sky. But I'm not sure if this tops that night you went around the town with me and Mom dressed in my pajamas. You laughed too when you remembered the incident. It had been quite the escapade. That sounds like a story I'd be interested in hearing. Cove looked at him and then you, shaking his head slightly. That kind of is the story. There's not a lot else to say. You weren't entirely sure about that, but Cove wasn't ready to start reminiscing with Baxter. Well, I wish I'd gotten the memo of tonight's dress code. I could have suited myself to fit. He tugged on his shirt sleeve with a faint grin, going for humor. He definitely was overdressed when you compared him to the rest of you. It succeeded in making Cove smile. Sorry. Oh my god, look at the fireworks! Oh, that's so pretty. A flash lit up the sky with a brilliant green. Your eyes flew off the building in the distance. and silently watched the bated breath. You heard a second boom, and a red firework lit up the night. Woo! The show's starting. It's so pretty. They came running over to get closer, positively beaming. Terry pressed herself to the waterfront fence, getting as close as physically possible without just going swimming again. More fireworks went off, shooting out hundreds of tiny sparkling lights. The colors stood out starkly against the dark of the night. The biggest ones washed your surrounding with their hue, turning your world blue, then red, and then golden. Did I deliver? Did I deliver? Miranda's eyes glittered, and she lightly bumped Terry with her hip. Good job. Terry stumbled at the friendly nudge, but was pleased with the compliment. She grinned back. Miranda lightly swung her hips in the opposite way to give you a bump as well. It was friendly and soft. We did it! You smiled at her and nodded. You were glad everyone seemed to be having a good time. Whew. Cove stared up at the sky with wonder, while Terry squealed in joy after a series of especially grand explosions. Miranda pointed to one that was shooting up and then gasped when it bloomed and turned into a huge sphere of violet light. Baxter smiled in appreciation. It was good to see your friends in high spirits. The rest of the group huddled around the railing to take in the show as closely as possible. Miranda stood close by. Terry's hands gripped the top. Cove laid his hands across it while leaning forward, and Baxter rested his elbows on the rail, putting his back to the fireworks. He seemed to be having more fun watching the others than the actual show. Ooh! She pointed out a golden firework and beamed. Ah, that's so cool! Terry held up a hand for a high five, and Miranda obliged her. Terry whipped and shot you a smile. What color do you think the next one will be? Without giving Baxter a glance, Cove answered immediately. Green. It was orange. Baxter chuckled, but wasn't interested in calling Cove out for being wrong. Is that your favorite color? Green? It's one of them. I think that's nice. It matches you. And is yours black? That's one of them. Cove smirked just a little and left the conversation there. Oh, who should we stand next to? Stand next to Baxter. I don't know why. He's like got my interest all the way like up to the top. Baxter easily saw you approach the way he was propped up. He happily gestured for you to take the place right next to him. He grinned while tilting his head up to the sky. I really am lucky to have met you all this summer. Oh, I won't forget it. Oh my god. You didn't know what to say to that admission, but it made you happy to think about. Things weren't one-sided. As you wanted chances to be around him, he was wanting the same thing. That's so nice. He's so sweet. What the heck? The spectacle continued to ante by bringing more fireworks out at a time. The colors danced across the sky and reflected over the water. He reached out a hand and watched it as it tinted green while a big boom sounded. Fireworks were a normal summer tradition, but this is admittedly an unconventional approach. Showing up in the city last minute to watch a display from a technically private event, that made this feel special in a way that was just planning to go to a public fireworks show never would. Tara's idea may not have left you with a lot of time to prepare, but it sure led to a unique event. It was clear that this was an unforgettable night. As the finale sounded, blazing the sky with unbelievable beauty, you remember thinking that there might never be a night exactly this one again, not for the rest of your life. You planned to hold on to the feelings as you had in that moment for as long as you could. Oh my god. Oh my god, don't start with that again, please. Okay. So we finished moment 1. Finally I said it right. So that was an adventure. Oh my god, I really like that stuff, to be honest. Alright, so that was moment 1, and yeah, I think that was a good place to end this episode off. But lastly, you're Jem, and thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye!